All right, Mr. Victor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Penny Lowery.
All right. That's what I was going to ask you. Were you known at some point as Penny Carrico?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're one and the same person?
Yes.
Okay. Lowery is your married name, ma'am?
It is.
Okay. I want to ask you whether you know the defendant, Natalie Cochran.
I do.
How do you know Natalie?
I'm her older sister.
Then I presume you know her late husband, or you knew her late husband, Michael Cochran,
Absolutely, yes.
and their children.
Yes.
How well did you know Penny? I mean Penny, because how long did you know Natalie?
Oh, I mean, she's, my whole life. I was 12 years old, I think, when she was born.
Okay. She is Natalie Page, right?
Correct.
And you're Penny. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Did you maintain very close contact with Natalie and her family?
Yes.
12-year-old.
Yes.
Did you socialize other than in family settings?
Yes.
What would you do?
They've been on vacation with me before. I mean, we'd do dinners, we'd go to their house, we'd been at the beach, things like that.
Normal family things,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
and then additional vacations, outings,
Yes.
going out. All right.
My daughter went a lot of places with them.
Okay. Let me cut to the chase. Did you know that Michael Cochran was using any substances?
Yes.
What kind of substances was he using?
I don't really know what they were, but he had a lot of things in cabinets and on the counter and stuff. He took stuff. I usually saw him take them in the mornings when I was there.
What was he using those substances for?
To be buffer or bigger, to be stronger.
Why did he want to be stronger or buffer?
He just wanted to, he fought in tough man contests and that's just the way he liked to be. But he fought in the tough man contest and things like that.
Did he care about his physical appearance?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And was he trying to be an athlete? Is that what it was?
I don't know so much an athlete as he just wanted to look that way.
How about a bodybuilder?
I don't know if I would call it that. He wanted his body to look that way, but I don't know that he wanted to be a bodybuilder. But he did like fighting, like kickboxing, things like that.
Okay. How long did you observe Michael Cochran take all these substances?
Years. It'd been years since I've known, since they were together.
Have you ever been able to determine what these substances were?
No, sir. I never asked him. I would just say, "Please stop," and he'd just, laugh at me.
How frequently did you observe Michael and these substances?
I've known him. I guess I've known him since they've been together, since they were in high school. So it was often, but I don't really have an amount of time. But it was several times.
How many pills? Pills were those pills that he was taking?
Pills, and I remember him doing mixing a bunch of stuff to drink and powders and things along those lines.
Did he also inject anything?
I only saw that one time, and they were at the beach with us. And I came out of my bedroom, and he was in the kitchen. And I can remember the kids they were young enough, they slept together on the sofa bed. And I was sitting on their bed, and he was in the kitchen. I saw him doing an injection.
Did you ever see him take insulin?
I don't know what he took. Okay. I mean, if that was one of the things, I wouldn't know. I didn't know the names of any of this stuff.
Okay. Whatever was he telling you about all these substances?
He really never told me anything. I would just I said, you please stop that. You've got to stop that. It's not good for you. And he would always just laugh and, say, oh, you're retarded, Penny. It's okay. Or, and one time I told my nephew, I said, please don't ever do that, what your dad's doing. And he would laugh at me. I mean, he wanted to be strong.
Okay. How many pills at a time?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, you said that he laid out something on.
Yeah, well, he had a whole counter full of stuff and a cabinet, and I mean, there was a lot. I don't know how much he took at once, or I mean, I just saw the times that I was there. Usually, when I saw him was in the mornings.
Do you know where these pills came from?
I do not.
Okay. Did you ever see any packages delivered to their house, or?
I've seen packages delivered to their house, but I couldn't tell you what were in them.
You don't know whether these were the pills or
No.
anything.
No.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you whether you observe Michael's health over the last, say, 3 years of his life.
Have I observed it?
Have you observed his demeanor, his health, his general appearance?
Yes.
Well, tell the jury about it. Starting, say, in 2017, when I understand he had a back surgery.
A back surgery?
Right.
I don't really recall that. I know that there was a time he got really sick, and we thought it might be mold because he'd worked under the house. They have an older house, and he'd worked in some old houses, and he would tell me that he was just dizzy and felt foggy all the time, or that he just couldn't think. And then the same way I observed him during, when he passed away, he had done that before, and I had seen him in the hospital. I mean, he would throw up, and what I thought, I would just be speculating, but I thought looked more like seizure activity.
Okay. Did you ever see him on these occasions that you mentioned when he went to the hospital? I presume that was in October and November 2018.
I can't remember the dates, but I think so, yes.
And then in February of 2019.
Yes.
Did you ever see him sick on any other occasions?
Not anything that was abnormal. He was sick, or he would say he felt bad, but typically what I would consider myself sick, he would have days that he would be throwing up or things like that. But the main occasion was that one in October and November.
Did his health improve, or did it get worse?
It got worse.
Tell us about, say, right before he went to the hospital in November of 2018. What did you observe of him?
Just that I really thought something was wrong with their house, because the kids even had like a lot of runny noses and stuff. But he would just say, he couldn't think clear. He wouldn't remember things, and I'd say, "Well, do you remember?" I would say, "I don't know." We'd be talking about something. I'd say, "Well, it's this." He said, "Well, I couldn't think of it," or, and I just. He just seemed different. He would get angrier, and we just thought he had a lot of mold poisoning.
When he came out of the hospital in November 2018, what was he like? How did he act?
He came through, and he seemed like he was going to be fine. He was like he was before. He was just himself. The same way. He was still foggy, and I told him, I said, "You've got to quit taking this stuff."
Okay. And and what was his response? Retarded Penny? Is that what he said?
No, not that time. He had before. He'd always laugh at me and just say, "Oh, Penny," And he I don't even remember what he said that time, because I'd say it to him a lot. I'd say, "You've got to stop." And I didn't want Ashton, his son, to start that habit of.
Let's use the initials for
Sorry.
the son. Well, did he ever? Well, when he came out of the hospital, did he express his liking or disliking hospitals?
He was mad. He told me, he said, "If you ever do that to me again, if any of you all ever do that to me again," he said, "I will be furious with you. I'll never forgive you." He said, "I do not want to wake up again in a hospital."
Okay. Did you ever observe him work on any contracts or anything in his business? Do you have any knowledge of that?
I mean, I knew they did contracts. I didn't see him like sitting at a desk working on them, but we had talked about them some.
Well, what did he tell you about his work?
The conversations that I can remember with him, I remember one time we were at his son's football practice, and I was a principal of a school at a time, and I said, if things keep going well, would you consider donating some, he liked, physical activity. I said, would you consider donating some stuff to my school? And he said, yeah. He said, why don't you do some of these too? He said, there's a lot of educational ones we can help you find, and you can work on them as well. And there were a few times he had signed checks to give to me that when when they owed me money.
Did he ever tell you anything about being a gun dealer?
I don't know that he told me, but I knew they were.
Well, what did he tell you?
I don't know how I knew or if he told me, but I just know they had gotten the license to deal with arms, and then they started that business. Well, they bought a location, and then they started fixing that up for, I think he called it Tactical Solutions.
Did he ever tell you that he sold many guns to the government?
I don't recall if he told me that.
Okay. Did he ever tell you that he dealt with the government?
Yes.
And what do you recall him saying?
Just that they were doing government contracts. That's what they were doing now, and that was their job basically. He just told me that's what they were doing.
Okay. Tell us about. Did you know anything about their financial situation?
What do you mean exactly?
How did they live? Did they live modestly? Did they live in luxury? How did they live?
I would say between modest and luxury. I mean, I wouldn't call it luxurious, but they lived, I felt, better than I did. But,
Okay.
They got to do a lot of things. They had a nice home. They had nice vehicles. I mean, I didn't know their financial status per se. I never asked, but they lived well.
Well, they buying any boats or anything like that? Do you know anything about that?
They were going to. I know I think they looked at a boat or were going to buy a boat. I'm not sure if they ended up doing that, but they were buying some things, yes.
He had plenty of motorcycles, from what I remember.
I remember one motorcycle. I don't know how many he had. And he had a sports car and a truck.
How about did they buy any other properties?
Well, they bought the business. I think it was I'll call it Eisenhower. They bought a building there. I think they had, best I can remember, they bought a home that they were renting to someone, and then they were looking to buy a house at Flat Top Lake, but I don't think they ever did that.
How about there was some talk about helicopters and hangars. What was that all about?
I don't recall the details, but I just know he was going to, I think they had a hangar, he was going to buy a helicopter, they were looking at it with his friend, best that I can recall. I didn't talk in depth about that. That stuff didn't matter to me.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that they lived really well?
Yes. Yeah. They had more than I had.
Michael was a generous person, wasn't he?
Yes.
He would take people out.
All the time.
He would pay.
There was only one time he ever let us pay. I mean, he always paid for our meals every time. Like I said, he took us out a lot, but they did a lot for my daughter. Like he would take her to places with the kids.
Where would he go with them?
Oh, he ate out at Chili's almost every day. Like he took her on they took her to Disney World. He ate out every day, so
And he paid for that?
Yes.
Took your daughter to Disney World?
Well, the family did, yes.
The whole family?
Their family, yes, took my daughter, yes.
And he paid for it?
Yes.
Okay. You know that they went to Paris, France, and they went to Hawaii, they went to other places.
I don't remember Hawaii, but I do remember Paris, yes.
All right. Where else did they go on vacations?
They'd go to the beach a lot.
Which beach?
I just remember Myrtle.
Myrtle.
Yeah, he went with us some. So, yeah.
Okay. And who funded that? Who paid for all of that?
Well, at the times that I remember, my family rented a condo in the summer because I'm an educator and I was off at that time, and they would come stay with us. But he paid for lots of our meals and to do things.
Okay.
But that was some time ago. It was
Okay.
when the kids were really little.
Okay. Then, did Michael have his own medicine cabinet in the house that you remember?
I don't know if it was like, I call it his own, but it was the cabinet with all of his stuff. And I can remember it kind of being in the corner because I was hunting for a glass and there was all kinds of stuff in there that was his. And yeah, I mean, I just knew it was his stuff.
What was Michael's profession as such?
The only thing, I remember him being an IT guy for a little while for Job Force, but that's all I can recall.
That's that IT. I hear that IT. What does that mean, really?
I think he helped with their technology if they needed like wiring or that was my understanding. I didn't talk to him much about what he did.
What did he do for the businesses that he had with Natalie?
I'm not sure what all he did.
Okay. Now, when you in February of 2019, what did Michael look like and what did he act like? What was his appearance like? Tell us about what you saw.
I mean, just thinking back, I don't know how often I saw him that month or what. I mean, he looked like he had done in the past, even before the day that he that he passed away. Yeah, he seemed the same as I was used to. He was very angry. And I just remember he wrote me a check that they owed me some money, and he said, "I'm leaving it at the front door." Like he didn't want me to come in or see him. And I don't know. I knew he was just mad because I'd asked for my money.
Was he confused?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Did he complain of any headaches?
Yes. Yeah, he did. He did a lot. I mean, even way before February.
What did he tell you about his headaches?
Nothing. They just said, he would take aspirin and stuff because he had headaches. But I'm a migraine sufferer. His son is as well, so I didn't think much about anything. He had a headache. And then again, when it got really bad, we thought it was where he was working on this house. And I think he was up underneath it and stuff in the crawl space. We thought maybe mold or something had gone into his lungs causing that.
You've never seen his medical records, have you?
No.
And in February, February 6th, you actually went to the Cochran's house.
If that was the day, yes, I did.
When Michael supposedly collapsed.
Yes, I did.
And what did you observe?
Well, I got a call. My niece called me around. I was at work and school was out. Like all the kids were gone. She called and said, "Mom needs some help. Can you come over?" And then I went and I helped her get him. He kind of slumped off the couch, and I helped her get him back on. And she was cleaning. She was going to clean him up. He had an accident. Okay. And Nikki went to get his clothes, and I helped her with that. And that was around 4:00.
Who was at the house at that time, from your observation?
Nikki and their son, Natalie and myself.
Anybody else who came later?
Later that evening, yes.
Who came later?
She called me around. We were on our way to go out and eat, and I was in the car, and she had called and said, "I'm taking him to the hospital. Can you please come get the kids?" And it was dark, but it was February, so I know it was around 6 o'clock or so because I remember trying to call my mom, and they're always at church. And so I said, "Yeah, I'll come get the kids." And when I went there, I think I was the first one in there, and then Thomas and Lacey Treadway came in. And then the last people in, Chris Davis and his son, followed in after that.
Okay. Were you, at least you, aware of the fact that Michael Cochran didn't want to go to the hospital?
Oh, yeah.
He expressed that
Yes.
view exactly to you? He expressed
everybody, yes, to all of his.
And Natalie was present when he said,
yeah, yes. When the first episode happened, he told all of us, yes.
All right, if I may have a second.
Certainly.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, cross-examination, Mr. Truman.
Thank you,
You work for the Raleigh County Board of Education?
I do.
And in 2019, what was your job?
At that time, I was a principal,
Where?
Shady Spring Elementary.
Okay. And your current position is what?
I'm the assistant superintendent.
Oh, okay. You were an investor in the defendant's company?
I was.
You lose some money?
I did.
About how much did you lose?
She was my sister, so I didn't really keep records. I mean, I didn't consider it more of it was a business deal, but I just thought she could, it would help me out. So, but when everything was said and done, I felt like it was around $50,000.
Okay. Did you ever get any of it back?
Well, that's what I ended up, I think, not having. So, like, I would give some, and I would get some, give some, and get some, and then when it all ended, I think I was $50,000 or around.
$50,000 around.
In the
Okay.
whole, yeah.
Do you know how much you put in altogether?
No. Like I said, it was just, yeah, go ahead and put me in for this contract, and then I would say, here's some more. I don't really recall. I really don't.
Were your dealings with Michael on these transactions?
Natalie with the money.
Okay. So she controlled all the money for the company, and according to your niece, he was at his computer doing whatever he did with government contracts. But the money side of it was your sister.
He wrote me some checks. Like, he would write them and sign them, but as far as like me saying I want to give for this contract, I dealt with her.
Okay. You got a call. The first call you got was from your niece?
Yes.
Saying we need help?
Yes.
That was after school, and you were at Shady Elementary?
Yes.
Okay, which is how far from the Cochran house, roughly?
Probably about 6 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's very close.
And you went the first time to the Cochran house that day by yourself?
I did.
Okay. You indicated that Michael was on the floor. Actually, this may not be fair, but was Michael on the floor in front of the couch or next to a couch?
No, he was on the couch, but he was kind of his leg and arm were off of it, and his head was kind of on the couch part. So I helped her get him up on the couch comfortably, his head on the pillow and his arm, everything up on the couch. And I kind of held a blanket, and Nikki got him some clothes. She cleaned him up. Natalie cleaned him up.
You got me a little bit confused there. Nikki got some clothes, and the defendant cleaned him up?
Yes, so she said, Nikki, run and get him some clean pants, and I kind of held a blanket there, and I just held that while she did that.
Okay, so did you participate other than holding the blanket up over Michael?
No, and I really didn't do that. To be honest, the son kept saying, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. He kept aggravating her the whole time, and she said, stop, I'm trying to deal with this. I said, why don't you just let me deal with him? And I don't recall if I took him or if I went, but I think I took him to get food and brought him back.
Okay. Now, before Nikki called you, you had heard from the defendant, correct?
I had.
How did she communicate with you?
She texted me.
And she sent you this picture, correct?
She did.
What was your reaction to seeing that picture for the first time?
She sent it, and she sent a text that said something like, he's sick and won't get up, or something along. I just remember thinking, I know it sounds terrible, but I was really busy. There was kids and stuff all in my office, and I remember thinking, what does she mean he won't get up? And I thought, well, what does she want me to do about it?
Okay.
Then
by the time Nikki called, that was 2 hours later?
Oh, it's more than that, probably.
More than that, because your school had been dismissed for the day.
Yes.
And what time would that be?
It was around 4. I was working at my desk, and she texted me, and I remember, I think my secretary was still there, because I said, I've got to go. Natalie needs me, and that's the best I can recall. I remember I was at my desk, and Nikki called me.
When you got to the Cochran house in answer to Nikki's call to you, tell us what you remember about what you saw.
Well, like I said, when I went in, he was on the couch, but he was kind of slumped over it. And I helped her get him on the couch comfortably. He was snoring and making noises, and I thought the same thing I thought the first time I saw him in the hospital in November, whenever that was, that he had had another seizure and that he was going to be coming up out of that. So I helped her. He had had an accident, so helped her get him up there, fixed on the couch. And she said, "Nikki, go get him some clothes." I kind of put a blanket over him, and then that's all that happened at that time.
Okay. When you saw him in the hospital, was he?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm just going to direct questions about this exhibit.
All right. We need to identify that exhibit for the purpose of the record, please.
It's attached to a text. I cannot tell you off the top of my head. If you give us a moment, we can.
Okay, maybe Ms. Acord can track it down.
Can I go on with the exam while?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. You get to the house. You've described what actions you took to help your sister with her distressed husband. But my question to you goes to when he was in the hospital. You went to Charleston to see the Cochran?
Yes, sir.
Was Michael sedated while he was in there, to the best of your knowledge?
I do not know.
Okay. But you just know he was not awake.
Correct.
On the 19th of February of 6th of February 2019, when you got to the Cochran's house, was Michael ever in a position where you heard him converse with anybody?
No.
Did you hear him converse with anybody either time you were there?
No.
Now, you came back at the request of the defendant to pick up the kids?
Yes.
And that's because what?
She called me, and we were on our way to dinner, and she called me. I was in the car, and she said, "I'm going to take him to the hospital. I've called Chris and Thomas to come help. Can you come get the kids?"
Okay. When you came to pick up the kids, who was present at the house at that time?
I think it was just me at the time. My husband stayed in the car, we weren't married at the time, but I can't remember if Thomas and Lacey had gotten there yet or not. I think it was just me, but I know Chris and his son came in last.
Okay.
So I can't recall if they were there before me or me. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So to the best of your recollection, the defendant was there, Michael was there, the two kids were there.
Yes.
But Mr. Treadway showed up after you got there?
I don't recall.
Okay.
He might have been there when I got there. I remember him and his wife were there, but I can't I just remember Chris came in after I was there because I saw him and his son come in
Okay.
through the door.
And the Treadways might have been there, or they
I
might have
can't-
come
I-
in.
Yeah, I don't
Fair
recall.
enough.
He was there first, me or them.
Fair enough. The decision to actually take Michael to the hospital, when did that come about?
I don't know. Like I said, she called me and said, "I'm taking him to the hospital. I've called Chris and Thomas to help. Can you come get the kids?" And then we were all there, and I remember saying, "He is going to be so mad at us." And but we all said, "Well, we have to take him." So
Did you express an opinion as to whether he should go to the hospital, notwithstanding his prior reservations about that?
say that again.
Sure. Did you express an opinion as to whether he should go to the hospital despite his statements that I don't want to go back again?
Not until everybody was in there. We were all in there, and we were all talking, and we were just all talking, and everyone was talking about how mad he was going to be, and I remember saying, "Well, we still need to take him," and then I remember Chris saying yes, and then I went and got my now husband we helped get him in the car.
So who actually, to the best of your recollection, helped to take Michael to the car?
Chris, Thomas, and my now husband Mario.
Okay. Whose car did they take Michael to?
Natalie's.
And who was driving the car when or were you present when the car drove off?
I was not.
You went back inside, or?
No, I was going to take the kids with me, and they wanted to go with Thomas and Lacey because they have kids their age. And I said, "Well, we just left because we felt like our job was done there." So.
Okay, so you didn't end up with the kids that night?
No, I did not.
So the
We
last.
left after he was in the car, but I don't know who ended up going or.
Okay. Were you? Did you see Michael in the car?
Yes,
Where was he?
in the very back. Like
And
they
what-
laid him across it's a long SUV, and they laid him across in the back.
Who else did you see anybody else in the car?
No,
So you didn't see your sister, you didn't see Kristen?
no one was in the car when I left.
Just Michael. Can I have just a moment, please?
Sure.
I don't believe the state has any additional questions. Thank you.
All right, redirect Mr. Victor.
Do you recall in August 2018 when Michael Cochran brought Natalie to your school and told you that he wanted you to deal with him from that moment on?
Yes.
That was in August of 2018.
I can't recall the date.
Okay. But he told you that he wanted to, for you to deal with him in the matters of business,
Yes.
with him only.
Yes.
Okay. You lost almost 50 grand on this.
That's what I think. Yeah. When it was all said and done. Yes.
And you should be really, really mad at your sister,
Yeah.
and I presume Michael, but he is not with us.
Right.
And yet it did not color your testimony here today.
No.
Did it? Okay. That's all. Thank you.
And one follow-up, Your Honor.
Right
And
ahead.
it should have been asked on cross, but
Okay.
it wasn't. What did the defendant tell you actually happened to Michael that day?
We never really talked about that except in the text. She just said he was sick and she sent me the picture and said he was sick and he wouldn't get up. I just remember however it was worded, I thought, well, why won't he get up? I didn't know if he couldn't, he wouldn't. That's all I remember, that she said he was sick.
Well, but at some point, didn't she tell you what happened to him?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, do you remember being interviewed July 16th of 2019 by a couple police officers?
I probably was, yeah. I mean, I remember being interviewed. I don't know when it was.
Okay. And at that time, you indicated that the defendant told you that he threw up, hit his head, and seized.
She told me I recall the throwing up the first time this happened in October and November. She told me that he hit his head much later after he had been in the hospital in February. She said he had hit his head on the counter when he fell.
And we're talking now about February
Yes,
6th.
correct.
Okay.
But the throwing up, I can only recall, like I said, it's been a long time, but I remember he was throwing up a lot during the October, November time, even in the car.
And you've indicated in questioning from the defense that you have no idea what supplements Michael was taking.
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions to stay ahead.
Did you ever see any dent on the counter in the kitchen of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran?
There was it wasn't a dent because it was like corian or something, but there was a divot knocked out of it, yes.
And that's what Natalie told you, that's where he hit his head?
Yes,
And there was a dent on it.
yes.
I may have a second.
All right.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Judge, to clear up the record, I think that picture is in States to Exhibit 6.
All right, thank you. Any further questions of the witness, Mr. Truman?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
May this witness be excused.
So far as the state's concerned, yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Lowery. You may step down. You are excused. Call your next witness, please, Mr. Victor.